All right, ready to dive in. Today, we're tackling daily horoscopes.
Ooh, fun.
I figured whether you're, someone who checks theirs religiously or you think it's all a bunch of hooey, there's something kind of fascinating about them, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think there's a lot more to it than people realize sometimes.
So we dug up some really interesting sources that get into, not just what horoscopes are, but like why they kind of stick with us, even if you're, a total skeptic.
Yeah, it's true.
But okay, before we get too deep, let's just start with the basics.
Okay.
What exactly is a daily horoscope when you get right down to it?
Right.
I mean, our sources basically describe it as like, it's a prediction or a little piece of guidance, and it's all based on your zodiac sign.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone remembers their zodiac sign is based on when you were born, your birthday.
Right.
And the whole idea is that these little predictions, they're influenced by, where all the planets and the sun and the moon are, all that celestial stuff.
Like your cosmic daily planner, as one of the sources put it, which I just love.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, so then that leads to the big question, right?
Okay.
Why do people even bother checking them?
Yeah.
I mean, like, we're not all just sitting around waiting for the planets to tell us what to do.
Exactly.
So what is it about these, even if they're generalized predictions, that makes people, want to see what theirs says?
Well, and I think you hit on something there. The fact that they are generalized, there's this tendency, I think, to just kind of dismiss them as superstition.
Sure, yeah.
But I think when you dig a little deeper, there's actually a lot more there, especially psychologically.
Totally. And like, I'll admit, I've definitely checked my horoscope just out of curiosity sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
It's just fun to see what it says. But our sources actually point out that there are some, some deeper reasons why we're drawn to them.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
What did you find, like, most interesting about that?
Well, one thing that really stuck out to me was this idea that we as humans were just kind of hardwired to look for patterns
Uh-huh.
and meaning even in like totally random events,
Yeah.
So even if we don't like consciously believe in astrology,
Right.
a horoscope can give us that sense of like order and connection to something bigger.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like, even if you don't think Mercury retrograde is actually making your phone go haywire,
Right.
just reading about it can almost make you feel like, oh, okay, it's not just me.
Exactly. And, the source talked about how a lot of people, they turn to their horoscopes specifically for guidance
Okay, yeah.
or even just like a little boost of positivity,
So the-
especially when they're, facing uncertainty in their lives. It's almost comforting to feel like even in this crazy world, there might be, some cosmic forces looking out for you.
I get that. And our sources, they mention a whole bunch of reasons why people might, check their horoscopes. Like, sometimes it's just for guidance. Sometimes it's just, wanting to have a positive outlook on the day.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's honestly just for fun and a little bit of entertainment,
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I read one a while back that said I should like be on the lookout for unexpected opportunities.
Okay.
And that day I actually ran into this old friend and they offered me a freelance gig, totally random.
Wow, that's wild.
But it did make me think, even if I don't take it literally,
Yeah,
these little like nudges, they can sometimes kind of put you in a different headspace.
for sure. Yeah, it's funny how like a few words can really kind of get to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes me think of this other thing that our sources talk about. It's called the Barnum effect.
The Barnum effect.
Yeah. Have you heard of that?
I don't think so, no. So it's this psychological thing. Basically, it's where people tend to believe like general personality descriptions are like uniquely about them, even if honestly those descriptions could apply to like almost anyone.
Oh, okay.
Like those personality quizzes that go viral online.
Uh,
We always feel like the results are like eerily accurate, but really they're pretty vague.
oh, totally. Yeah, I've definitely fallen for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you saying horoscopes like tap into that same kind of thing?
Exactly, yeah. A lot of the language in horoscopes is, it's broad enough that it could resonate with a ton of people.
Okay.
But because it's framed within, your specific sign, we tend to personalize it
Yeah.
and think it's way more meaningful than maybe it actually is.
So it's not just that we're like looking for patterns, but our brains are actually like kind of primed to find those patterns,
Hey.
even if they're not really there.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of leads to another interesting point, this whole idea of self-fulfilling prophecies.
Ooh, interesting.
You know, like if your horoscope says you're going to have a lucky day,
Yeah.
you might just, without realizing it, be more open to those positive
Oh,
experiences.
that's so interesting. It's like you're setting an intention without even, like, trying to...
Right. And then, on the flip side, if your horoscope warns you about potential conflicts,
Yeah.
you might be more likely to see, just neutral interactions as something negative.
Huh. Okay, so maybe it's not so much that, the stars are controlling everything,
Right.
but more like these little prompts can kind of influence how we see things and how we act.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that this doesn't have to be a bad thing,
Okay,
That
yeah.
if reading a horoscope encourages someone to, I don't know, be more mindful or optimistic, or even just more proactive,
Right.
that could be really powerful for personal growth.
I like yeah, it's about like using those insights to your advantage instead of letting them like run the show.
Yep.
Okay. But speaking of insights, I think it's time we actually like break down what a typical daily horoscope even looks like.
Yeah, good idea.
Because our sources describe a pretty like consistent structure to them.
Mm-hmm.
They usually start with like a general overview of the day's energy.
Yes, exactly.
Like you get that feeling of, okay, like is the universe feeling chaotic today or are things flowing?
Yeah, you get a vibe.
And then it gets into the specifics.
Right, exactly.
After that general overview, then you usually get those like more targeted predictions about, love, career, money, health.
It's like a little cosmic checkup.
It really is. And there's usually a little piece of advice too, right?
Oh, always.
Like tucked in at the end. It's like, take some time for yourself today, or like, be bold and go after that opportunity.
Yeah, for sure.
It's funny because sometimes even if the specific predictions like don't really hit home for me, those little advice nuggets can be really helpful.
Yeah, and this is where they really stress the importance of where you're getting your horoscope from.
Oh.
They specifically mention astrology as a reputable source because, the interpretations are coming from people who really know their stuff.
Right. Because not all horoscopes are created equal.
Exactly.
It's like I wouldn't trust a medical diagnosis from someone who just like Googled their symptoms.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
speaking of expertise, I think it would be helpful to touch on how those interpretations are actually made.
Yes, definitely.
It's not just throwing darts at a board and randomly assigning predictions,
Yeah, how does it actually work? I mean, our sources mentioned it's all based on like planetary positions and stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't really get like what that even means.
So basically, astrology is based on this idea that the positions of those celestial bodies, the planets and stuff,
Yeah.
at the time you were born, and at any given moment, they can influence your personality, your life path, all that.
Yeah.
And the source says that daily horoscopes are created by analyzing where all those planets are right now,
Oh, okay.
and then interpreting how those movements might, interact with your zodiac sign.
So there's like an actual system to it.
Right.
Even if the, interpretations themselves can be kind of like open to opinion.
Yeah. And it's important to separate those generalized daily horoscopes from a personalized birth chart reading.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Which is based on, the exact positions of the planets at the exact time and place you were born.
Okay. So a daily horoscope is kind of like a weather forecast for your sign, giving you a general sense of the cosmic climate.
I love that.
Whereas a birth chart is more like a detailed map of like your astrological DNA or something.
Yes. Perfect analogy.
And just like with a weather forecast, you don't have to let it like totally dictate your day.
Right.
You can use the information to just like be more prepared, more mindful, or just aware of the possibilities. But I think, even if we're taking all of this with a grain of salt, there's still that question. Can horoscopes offer any real value?
Yeah.
Even if you're like a skeptic.
That's the question, isn't it? And it's one our sources actually talk about directly. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think just what we've been talking about shows there's more to horoscopes than, most people think. Even if you're not like totally convinced that, the stars are out there pulling the strings or whatever.
Right.
There's something to be said for just that like ritual of checking in with yourself,
Yeah, totally.
thinking about your goals, maybe getting a little nudge in the right direction.
And one point the source makes that I thought was really interesting is that horoscopes, even if you don't take them literally,
Yeah.
they can be a really great tool for mindfulness.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's like taking a minute to just pause
Uh-huh.
and consider, okay, what's the vibe today?
Right.
What What areas of my life might need a little extra attention?
Yeah, it's almost like a mini meditation or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think we kind of forget how powerful those little rituals can be. Like
Uh-huh.
whether it's your morning coffee or reading your horoscope,
Right.
it just gives you that structure and grounding,
Hmm.
especially when everything feels so chaotic.
Oh, absolutely. And that reminds me of another thing from the research. This whole idea that horoscopes can give us a sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Like even if you don't buy into all the astrological stuff,
Yeah,
there's something kind of comforting about feeling like you're, part of this big cosmic dance.
totally. It's like if I'm having a rough day
Hmm.
and then I read that millions of other people are also dealing with the energy of a full moon or whatever,
Right.
it kind of makes me feel less alone.
It's about tapping into that shared human experience, right?
Right.
We're all under the same sky.
Mhm.
We're all subject to those same cosmic forces,
Yeah.
even if we see them differently.
I love that. And it also makes me think about how those, even with the general predictions, they can sometimes spark those aha moments.
Oh, for sure.
Like maybe you read something and it just clicks with a challenge you're facing,
Yeah.
or it helps you see things from a different angle.
Absolutely,
It
yeah.
can be like a really cool way to get to know yourself better.
Totally, yeah.
And hey, even if none of that really resonates, there's always the fact that horoscopes can just be fun.
Right.
It's nice to just indulge in a little cosmic whimsy sometimes. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree. Life is serious enough as it is.
Exactly.
Why not have a little fun with it?
So I think it's safe to say we've learned that daily horoscopes, they're more than just entertainment.
Yeah.
Whether you're, an astrology expert or just curious, there's something there for everyone.
Right.
It's a cool way to practice mindfulness, reflect,
Yeah.
and connect with something bigger.
And hey, listener, here's a little something to think about. Pay attention to how you react to your horoscope this week. Do any of the themes hit home for you?
Yeah.
Does it give you any new ideas? You might be surprised by what you discover.
That's a great challenge.
Wow.
And until next time, keep exploring with us here on The Deep Dive.